What is this? Why did it have to rain now, just when I'm about to go home? Grumbled Callie, shielding herself with a flimsy grocery bag as she hurried out of the local farmer's market in rural Oregon. She had just finished shopping, and now a heavy downpour was soaking her from head to toe. "Ouch! That hurts, Dad! It hurts!" came a child's cry from a small weathered house not far from the road. Callie's brow furrowed when she heard the noise. "Bad! You're bad! You're hurting my brother!" another child's voice yelled. Callie's heart raced. She knew those voices. They were her triplets. Without thinking, she dropped her bags and sprinted toward the modest home they shared. What she saw inside stopped her cold. Her live-in partner, Mark, was striking her children. "What the hell are you doing to them?" Callie shouted, half in panic, half in fury. Fear surged in her veins, not for herself, but for her children. The 3 kids, sobbing and shaken, ran toward her and clung tightly to her legs. "Mum, he's bad. He hit me and Gabby." Gabe, one of the boys, sobbed. Mark scoffed, arms folded. "It's their fault for being so stubborn. If they'd just listen and behave, they wouldn't get hurt." "How dare you say that?" Callie roared. "You don't get to question how I raise my children. I let you into our lives because I thought you'd love them as your own, but all you've shown me is lies." Mark laughed bitterly. "Love them? They're the kids of your dead ex-husband, Callie. Why would I love them?" That did it. Callie lunged at him, striking his chest with clenched fists, tears pouring down her cheeks. "You heartless bastard," she sobbed. "You think hitting them is okay? You don't feel a damn thing seeing them cry?" Mark flinched, shocked by her rage. "Stop, it hurts." Callie didn't stop. "It hurts. It hurts. What about them? You monster!" But even as fury filled her voice, she fought to keep from breaking. Her voice cracked. "Get out," she said firmly. "What?" Mark scoffed. "You can't be serious." "I said get out. We don't need someone like you. We'll survive on our own. Just go." Mark stood frozen. Then, without another word, he gave a cold smirk, turned, and left. As the door slammed behind him, Callie dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms tightly around her children. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know he was hurting you. I dreamed of having a father figure for you, and I thought he could be that. But I was wrong." The 3 children clung to her. "It's okay, Mom," Gabe said softly, touching her cheek. "I protected Gabby, and even if we don't have a dad, we have you. That's enough for us." Callie's chest tightened with emotion. She remembered how her children always looked enviously at kids with dads, at the park, at school events. That longing broke her heart. That's why, when Mark courted her, she said yes, not for her, but for them. At first, Mark had treated the kids kindly, but little by little, his true nature surfaced, and now she was just thankful she'd seen it before it went too far. "Mom, I'm hungry," Gabby whispered, tugging on Callie's sleeve. The words jolted Callie back to reality. Thankfully, they still had some food left in their small pantry. She knew they wouldn't starve, yet. But the relief was short-lived. Their supplies dwindled fast, and with no steady job, survival became harder by the day. "Mama!" the kids cried out in unison as they watched their mother stagger and nearly fall. Luckily, Callie caught herself on a nearby table. "You're burning up," said little Gabby, placing a small hand on her mother's forehead. Callie was feverish, most likely from getting drenched in the rain the day before. She hadn't stopped working, hadn't allowed herself a moment to rest, and now it was catching up to her. "Sweetheart," Callie murmured weakly, "can you go get me the Tylenol?" The triplets sprang into action, rummaging through drawers. They always kept medicine on hand for emergencies, but fate wasn't on their side. This time, the bottle was empty. "There's no more medicine, Mama," Gabby cried, tears welling in her eyes. "It's okay, baby," Callie whispered, forcing herself to stay conscious, to soothe her kids even as her body trembled with fever. She could barely speak, let alone reassure them. Meanwhile, Gabriel, the only boy in the triplets and their eldest by a few minutes, wiped away his tears and stood up. "Stay here," he told his sisters firmly. "I'll find medicine." At such a young age, Gabriel had grown up too fast. Poverty had shaped him into someone mature beyond his years, someone who thought of survival instead of play. "We'll come with you, big bro," the girls chimed in. Together, the three children set out into the neighborhood, asking strangers for help. They approached people in stores, on sidewalks, outside coffee shops, anyone who looked like they might be kind or wealthy enough to spare $1. But no one helped. Meanwhile, miles away, Gavin, a successful businessman in his late 30s, leaned back in his car, parked at a quiet intersection. He had just received a letter from his twin brother, Gideon, a letter written years ago, but only now delivered, as per Gideon's request. "What is this?" Gavin whispered as he unfolded the note. Though single and well-established, Gavin had never married. He planned to one day, but hadn't yet met the woman he could see himself with forever. When he learned of Gideon's death in a car accident years ago, it devastated him. He had always blamed himself, convinced his brother hadn't truly lived. But this letter revealed a truth he never knew. Gideon had a family, a happy one. "If you're reading this, brother, thank you for continuing on," the letter began. "I know I left without saying goodbye, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to live quietly with my small family. I was happy, so don't blame yourself. Please, don't carry guilt. I know you too well. You'll shoulder the pain even if no one asks you to. So let it go." Gavin exhaled deeply, then read the next lines. "My one wish, Gavin, is that you find my family. I know my wife well, too well. She'll never come forward. She's not wealthy, and she won't want to burden anyone. But if you have time, please, find them, especially my triplets. One of them, I named after you, Gabriel." Gavin's eyes filled with tears. For years he had carried blame, grief, regret, and now, in just a few words, his twin had lifted all of that from his shoulders. "I'll find them," Gavin whispered aloud. "I promise, Gideon, I'll find your family." Just then, a loud honk behind him snapped him back to the present. He was still on the road, stuck at a red light. As he pressed the gas pedal and continued his drive, he noticed 3 young children crying on the sidewalk. He hit the brakes hard, alarmed. His heart raced, but they were okay, just distressed. He stepped out of the car and walked over to them. "Dad!" the kids shouted suddenly, startling Gavin. He stopped in his tracks, looking behind him. But the street was empty. Only the 3 children were there. "You're alive, Daddy!" they cried as they ran to him and hugged his waist. Gavin stood frozen. What was happening? Gavin managed a gentle laugh as the 3 children clung to him, their arms tight around his waist. He ruffled each of their heads with a kind smile. "Hey, kids, I'm alive, yeah, but I'm not your dad," he said, crouching to meet them at eye level. "What are you doing out here all by yourselves? Where are your parents? It's not safe to be wandering like this." One of the little girls began crying. Gavin's chest tightened. "It's our mum," said Gabby, her voice trembling. "She's really sick. She has a fever, and we ran out of medicine." Gavin's heart ached. He wasn't their father, but how could he walk away? "Well," he said, his voice soft, "even if I'm not your dad, I can still buy medicine for your mum." "Really?" the 3 of them exclaimed together, eyes brightening with hope. "Of course," Gavin said, smiling. "Come on, hop in the car. Let's go get what she needs." They piled into the back seat of his SUV, excited and grateful. Gavin shook his head with a chuckle. They kept calling him Dad, and even though he tried to correct them, they wouldn't stop. Eventually, he just let it go. After buying the medicine, Gavin asked them for directions and drove them home. As they neared a small run-down house, Gabby pointed out the window. "That's our place, Daddy." Gavin chuckled. "All right, but remember, I'm not your dad." He got out of the car with them and helped the two girls out of the back. The boy, Gabriel, stepped out first and quickly guided his sisters to the front door. Gavin watched with admiration. "Your parents must have raised you right, kiddo," Gavin said, smiling at the boy, unaware that this was the same Gabriel his twin had named after him. Inside, Callie stirred from her fever-drenched sleep. Her body still ached, but the shivering had eased. "Mama, we got your medicine," shouted Gabe as he ran to her side. Callie sat up slowly, weak but alert, only to freeze when she saw a man enter behind her children. Her heart stopped. She blinked. "Gideon?" she breathed, eyes wide in disbelief. Gavin's brows furrowed as he helped her from nearly collapsing again. "Are you okay, Mom?" "Mama, he looks just like Daddy. He must be Daddy," Gabby shouted, tugging at her sleeve. Callie stared at the stranger, bewildered by his resemblance to her late husband. Her mind raced. "How is this possible? Gideon died." "I'm Gavin," he said quickly. "I think we have a case of mistaken identity. I've never been here before, and I'm pretty sure my name doesn't match your husband's." "But his name was Gideon," said little Gabriel. Gavin paused. Something inside him stirred, a strange tightening in his chest. Could this be? "My brother's name was Gideon," Gavin said slowly. "Can I ask, what was your husband's full name?" Before Callie could answer, Gavin's phone rang, interrupting them. "Sorry, I need to take this," he said, stepping away. He answered quickly. "Dad?" "Yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes. As he returned, Callie turned away, visibly shaken. "You were saying something earlier?" he asked gently. "It's nothing," she replied quietly, forcing a smile. "Just thank you for helping us. You didn't have to, but you did." "You're welcome," Gavin said, offering a nod. As he left the house, something tugged at him. He couldn't stop thinking about her and the kids. His father had called to remind him of their visit to his brother's grave. Gavin stood now with his mother, Dolce, in front of Gideon's headstone, but his thoughts wandered back to Callie and the triplets. "You okay, son?" Dolce asked, sensing his distraction. "I'm fine, Mom," Gavin replied. "Can I stay here a while? I want to talk to my brother." Dolce gave him a soft smile. "Of course, take your time." Alone now, Gavin stood before the grave, sighing. "Gideon, I want to help your family, but you didn't leave me much to go on. No name, no address. How do I even begin?" Then he remembered the boy. "Gabriel," he whispered. "He looks just like me, feels like I'm staring into a mirror." He let out a long breath, a small smile tugging at his lips. Maybe I've already found them." Meanwhile, Callie was getting ready to visit her late husband's grave. She knelt before her children, gently brushing back their hair. "Kids, I'm going to visit your dad's resting place. You'll stay here with Miss Angie next door for now, okay? Mom, can we come with you?" asked Gabby with hopeful eyes. Callie sighed. "I'd love to bring you, but I can't. After visiting your dad, I'll be looking for a new job, something that pays better. The walk might be too long, and I can't risk you getting lost." The three kids pouted. Callie smiled softly and crouched lower to meet their eyes. "How about this? Next time I visit, you'll come with me. Okay?" Their faces lit up. "Really, Mom?" they asked, almost in unison. "Yes, next time, but for now I have to do this on my own. I'll find a way for us to keep going, just us, together." "We're proud of you, Mom," Gabriel said. "We're lucky to have you. You're the best mom in the whole world." Callie laughed gently, brushing away a tear. "I'm the lucky one. I thank God and your dad every day for giving me 3 bright, stubborn little angels. I'm not lonely, not as long as I have you." Even though she never attended Gideon's funeral, fearful of how his wealthy family might judge her, Callie had always kept tabs on where he was buried. Now she headed straight to the grave, alone, her heart heavy. But when she arrived, her breath caught. A man stood at the grave. She stepped behind a nearby headstone to avoid being seen, watching cautiously. Her heart dropped when she recognized him. It was Gavin, the man who had visited their house earlier. As Gavin turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of someone slipping away between the markers. Curious, he followed the figure and was stunned when he realized who it was. "You," he murmured, stopping her. Callie froze, unable to move. She stared at him like a deer caught in headlights. "What are you doing here?" he asked. She stared at him, heart racing. Could he be Gideon's twin? Is that why they look exactly alike? She wondered in panic. Before she could respond, Gavin stepped closer. "Are you my brother's wife?" Callie quickly looked away. "No," she said simply, turning to leave. "Was Gideon your husband?" he asked again, his voice firmer. Callie halted mid-step. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't answer. Just then, the children's voices echoed nearby. "Mum, who's that?" Callie turned in alarm. Gabriel had wandered toward them, followed by his siblings. In her panic, she tried to block Gavin's view, accidentally elbowing his side. "Ow!" he groaned as he stumbled back, releasing her. Without waiting, Callie turned and ran. Fear consumed her. What if Gideon's family finds out? What if they take my kids away? Back home, she began packing. If she had to disappear to keep her children, she would. Suddenly, the front door flew open. There stood Gavin, serious and unyielding. "Tell me," he said, "was Gideon your husband?" Callie's eyes widened. "You know my dad?" asked Gabby as she walked in from the bedroom. Gavin turned to Callie, his expression intense. "I asked your neighbors. They said you were married to my brother. There's no marriage certificate, but your visit to his grave and your kids' faces are proof enough." Callie stepped back, pulling her children behind her. "You can't take them," she cried, panic in her voice. "You can't have my kids." Gavin's brow furrowed. "Who said anything about taking them?" he asked gently. "I want all of you to come live with me, at the estate." Callie stared at him, skeptical. "You think I'll believe that? I know how rich people work. I've lived in this world long enough. I don't trust you." "I understand," Gavin said. "But we're not like that. My family isn't like that." Callie grabbed her kids and started walking away. "You're making a mistake," Gavin called after her. "This is what Gideon wanted. His last wish was for me to find you and take care of you." Callie stopped in her tracks. Tears began to fall. Even in death, Gideon had thought of them. The bags dropped from her hands. Her grip on the children loosened. She covered her face and broke into sobs. "Gideon," she whispered. Seeing her cry triggered the kids to cry too, and they all huddled together. Eventually, Gavin brought them home with him. For the first time in a long while, Callie felt something strange in her chest. Unease, but also relief. Gavin noticed it as they sat quietly in his car. From the driver's seat, he chuckled softly. "Come on, it's not like my parents' bite. They're not like what you're thinking. Just relax." When they arrived at the estate, Gideon's, now Gavin's, parents greeted them at the door. Before Callie could even explain, she bowed her head respectfully. "I'm sorry for keeping our relationship secret," she said. "Ma'am, I never intended for Gideon to disappear from your lives." Before she could finish, Dolce, Gideon's mother, laughed softly and stepped forward with a warm smile. "Who intends to lose the one they love, sweetheart?" she said, cupping Callie's cheek gently. I should be the one thanking you for making my son happy when we weren't there. Now that he's gone, I have no right to judge. You were his other half, his family. Dolce's eyes then moved to the children peeking shyly from behind Callie. And these cuties are my grandchildren, aren't they? Callie nodded, stepping aside so the kids could be seen. The triplets hesitated at first, unsure whether to approach. Come give Grandma a hug, Dolce said, her voice cracking with emotion. The kids rushed into her arms, and Dolce began to cry, overwhelmed. If only Gideon were here, he'd be so happy. Callie smiled, teary-eyed. I know it's sad, but I believe he's happy now, wherever he is. Thank you, Callie added, her voice soft, for welcoming us. I never imagined you'd be this kind. Dolce pulled her into a hug. It's okay, sweetheart. What matters is, you're here. And now my grandchildren are here. I'm happy. I promise. I won't let anyone take this family from me again. From that day on, the Sumners treated Callie and her children with warmth and care. They made sure Callie never lifted a finger, especially with how energetic and lively the kids were. Gavin, dear, Dolce said one day, why don't you take the family out to the park? Let them have fun. I'm a bit too old for the crowds now, and I'd just slow you down. The next day, they went to the amusement park. The triplets jumped from one ride to the next, starting with the carousel, then running to other kiddie attractions. Mum, Uncle Gavin, hurry, come ride with us, they called out, laughing. Callie and Gavin exchanged looks and chuckled before joining them, even though they felt awkward being the only adults on the carousel. Their laughter mingled with the children's joy. After that, they boarded the Ferris wheel. Inside the tight cabin, the closeness between Callie and Gavin became more noticeable. Their bodies were pressed side by side, and both tried not to react. Did you guys have fun? Gavin asked the kids once they were back on the ground. Yes, Daddy, the children replied in unison, giggling. I told you, I'm not your dad, Gavin said, though smiling. But you look just like him, Gabby said with a pout. Can we still call you Dad anyway? Gavin laughed and shook his head, unsure how to respond. As the ride attendants ushered more people in, he recalled something from Gideon's letter, something he had skipped the first time. I know we weren't officially married, but if you can, make my family a real part of the Sumner legacy. I don't care if she doesn't carry my name, just make sure the kids can. That way, our name lives on. Thank you, brother. At the time, Gavin had thought it was impossible. He didn't plan to fall in love. He had only intended to be there for the children. But now, he looked at Callie and asked, would it be okay if I became the father of your children? Callie froze. Huh? She muttered, unsure if she had heard him correctly. If not, that's okay, Gavin added quickly. But before she could respond, he continued. It was Gideon's last request, that I become a real father to them. I didn't understand it at first, but now I do. Callie stared at him in silence. I know you have your own life, he said, and I don't want to force anything. I'd like to be there for them. As a dad, the children beamed. Yes, please, Mom, can he? They asked, excited. Callie looked from Gavin to her kids. Then slowly, she nodded. If it's okay with you, then yes, she said softly. The kids erupted in cheers. Back at the mansion, their joyful noise echoed through the halls. They were thrilled to finally have someone to call Dad, especially now that school was starting. Where are you going, dear? Dolce asked Callie one morning, noticing her dressed and ready to head out. I'm going job hunting, Callie replied. I can't just stay here doing nothing. I don't want to feel like a burden. I've always worked. I'll go crazy just sitting around while the kids are in school. Dolce nodded thoughtfully. Would you like to work for the company? I heard you earned your degree. Gideon mentioned it once. Callie's eyes lit up. Yes, ma'am. He put me through school. He believed in me. Dolce smiled proudly. I'm proud of both of you. At that moment, Gavin arrived to pick her up. When they reached the office, all eyes turned toward them. Callie grew self-conscious. Just ignore them, Gavin said with a wink. They're just not used to seeing someone as pretty as you walk in. He led her to his office. She stood formally in front of his desk. What job will I be doing, sir? She asked. Gavin blinked. Huh? You brought me here. I assumed you had something in mind. She pulled out her resume nervously. I'm ready for an interview, sir. He simply grinned and pointed at a nameplate on a desk behind her. Secretary, Callie Enright. She read it aloud, stunned. Secretary? That's right, Gavin said with a teasing smile. What position were you expecting? You're the mother of my nephews and niece. Why would I put you far from me? Before she could react, laughter erupted from behind the door. A few staff members had been eavesdropping. Gabby, where are you? Callie called out later that afternoon. It was bath time, but none of her kids responded. Odd, they always appeared when she called. She found them in the mansion's backyard, splashing around in the mini pool, with Gavin, no less. Mum, come swim with us, Gabby yelled. Callie laughed softly, shaking her head. She never imagined Gideon's twin would become such a dedicated father to her kids. Gabriel and Gabby climbed out of the water and ran to her, tugging on her arms. As expected, they pulled her toward the water and splashed her playfully. Okay, enough, she said, laughing. I don't want to get soaked here. I'll shower inside. The kids pouted, but Gavin suddenly got a mischievous look. Hey kids, want to see your mom swim? Yes, Daddy, they all shouted. Callie paled. Wait, no, I said... Too late. Gavin lifted her up and walked straight into the larger pool. Gavin, don't you dare! Splash. Callie's heart raced as the water engulfed her. Her body was pressed against Gavin's. His arms were around her waist. She tried to pull away, but the depth of the pool forced her to cling to him for balance. She splashed water from her face, only to meet Gavin's eyes staring into hers. She quickly looked away. Gavin pulled her closer. She could feel the electricity running through her body, and she couldn't make sense of what she was feeling. Let's just stay like this for a while, Gavin said, his deep voice soft in her ear. Callie looked up at him, startled by how her heart reacted. Every beat was heavy, different, confusing. And Gavin, he didn't understand it either. He had never felt this way around any other woman. With Callie there was comfort, joy, something warm and new. But as more eyes turned toward them in the pool, Callie snapped back to her senses. She pulled away, awkward and flustered, and climbed out ahead of him. She walked toward her children, kneeling beside them and helping dry them off. Mum, are you and Daddy going to be together now? Gabby asked suddenly, her big eyes blinking with curiosity. Callie nearly choked. What kind of question is that, sweetheart? Of course not. He's your dad's twin. He can play the father role, but he'll never be my husband. That wouldn't be right. But what if you fall in love? Gabby asked again, innocently. Callie smiled and pinched her cheek. That's not going to happen, sweetie. I think your dad's brother is just being kind. That's all. He's a responsible man. He's doing what's right. A voice came from the doorway. Are you sure about that? Startled, Callie looked up. Gavin stood there, leaning against the doorframe. One corner of his lips curled in a teasing smile. He straightened up and walked toward them. We could always give it a try, he said. Callie's mouth opened, stunned. What are you talking about? Gavin grinned. What? Don't believe me. I mean, you said I'd stay in my lane, right? I know how men work, Callie replied, crossing her arms. That kind of line doesn't affect me. Gavin laughed. There it was again. That rare, light-hearted feeling he only got with her. She was the only one who could make him feel this alive. And the more time passed, the more he found himself wondering, do I have feelings for her? He wasn't sure, not yet, but something was there. Gavin shook his head and let it go. For now. Maybe time would answer it for him. Later that day, back at the office, Callie rushed into Gavin's office with a clipboard in hand. "You have a private meeting with our most important investor today," she said urgently. "Cancel it," Gavin replied casually as he walked out. Callie blinked in shock. "Sir, it's Mr. Alvarez. He doesn't like rescheduling. He's strict. Once a meeting is set, he doesn't move it." Gavin kept walking. Callie hurried after him, grabbing his arm to stop him. When he finally paused, she realized she had touched him in front of the staff. Embarrassed, she pulled her hand away quickly. "Sir, what could be more important than Mr. Alvarez's investment meeting?" she asked. "I have another appointment," Gavin said. "One that matters more to me." Still confused, Callie followed him out. She was stunned when she realized they were heading to a quiet restaurant with a full spread of food on the table, set for two. "Are we waiting for someone else?" she asked, glancing at the empty chairs. "No," Gavin said simply. Her eyes widened. This is your important appointment." "Yes," he said, pulling out her chair. "More important than Alvarez." She sat down, baffled. "I don't understand," she said. "Why would you choose this over a major business meeting?" Gavin leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Because you're more important to me than any investor," he said, with a soft smile. Callie looked away, flustered. "I never asked for this." "I know," Gavin said. "I'm the one who planned it. I chose this. I wanted this." Callie didn't know what to say. Gavin leaned in, smiling. "Isn't this a date? Just the two of us, eating together at a quiet place?" Callie blinked. She hadn't noticed before. They were alone. She tried to stand, but Gavin stopped her gently. "Don't be awkward. Treat it like a friendly lunch, or an employee appreciation meal, whatever helps you stay calm." Callie exhaled and nodded slowly. They began eating in silence, but Gavin couldn't help glancing at her every few seconds. She didn't know why, but he suddenly saw her differently, noticed things he hadn't before. Her beauty, her grace. The woman who once belonged to his brother was now pulling his heart in a direction he hadn't expected. After the meal, they headed back to the car. Gavin opened the door for her, and Callie thanked him without thinking. She was already used to his gentlemanly habits. The drive back was quiet. When they arrived, Callie went to unbuckle her seatbelt, but it wouldn't budge. She turned to ask for help, and came face to face with Gavin. Neither had intended to get so close. Their faces froze, barely inches apart. Time seemed to stop. Gavin shifted back quickly. "Sorry." From that day on, he tried to keep his distance. He still came to work, still shared an office with her, but something had changed. He was trying not to get too close, not to feel too much. Callie noticed it too. "Good morning, sir," she greeted him one morning. Usually they arrived together, but lately he'd been arriving early, sending the driver to pick her up separately. She figured he must have just been busy. When she reached the office and saw him already working at his desk, she told herself it made sense. He probably had deadlines, nothing more. But when he barely acknowledged her, just nodded without meeting her eyes, she started to wonder, did I do something? Did I say something wrong? She sat down at her desk, stealing glances at him from behind her monitor. Unbeknownst to her, Gavin noticed. "Secretary Enright," he called out formally. Callie quickly sat up straight, pretending to be busy. She was surprised at the formality. He never used her full title before. He repeated himself. "Secretary Enright, I'm calling you." She jumped to her feet and stood in front of his desk. "Sorry, sir, I was a little distracted." "Make me coffee," he said simply. "Yes, sir." she replied, and hurried out. As soon as she left the room, Gavin let out a breath. He hadn't realized he was holding it. What is wrong with me? He thought. Why does it feel so awkward now? Callie returned and quietly placed the coffee in front of Gavin. He adjusted in his seat and gave her a brief nod. Thank you. You can go back to your desk now, Secretary Enright. She turned and walked back, confused by his cold tone. He hadn't called her Callie in days, not since the lunch, not since that almost moment in the car. She told herself it was fine. He was probably just drawing a boundary, and she should respect it. Before she could sit down, the office door burst open. A security guard stood there, panting and holding his chest as if he had run up the stairs. What's going on? Gavin asked, brows furrowed. The guard looked panicked. Sir, there are 3 kids downstairs, causing a bit of chaos. We tried to stop them, but they got past us and ran inside the building. Now the rest of the team is chasing them. Gavin's brow twitched. Whose kids? Why are they here? The guard's eyes darted around, then landed on Callie. We tried asking, sir. They said their mum works here, that she's your secretary, but we thought they were just joking. We know she doesn't have kids, so we tried to block them, but they were, clever. Before he could finish, Gavin stood up and cut in. They're mine, he said. Those are my kids, and their mother is my secretary. The guard froze. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't. Please bring them to my office, Gavin said. No, Callie interjected. We'll go to them. Gavin nodded at her and left the office first. Callie followed, leaving the guard standing awkwardly behind. Meanwhile, in the lobby downstairs, the triplets were being surrounded by staff trying to corral them. I told you we're telling the truth, little Gabriel shouted. Our dad owns this company, and our mum works here. But your mum's just a secretary, one guard said, confused. That's right, Gabby cried. She's his secretary. At that moment, Gavin and Callie stepped off the elevator. The triplets immediately turned and ran to him. Daddy, they yelled in chorus. They threw their arms around his waist, and Gavin laughed, ruffling their hair. Employees nearby looked stunned. Sir, those kids are yours? Someone asked. Gavin turned and addressed the group, his voice calm but firm. Yes, they're mine, our kids, he said, motioning to Callie beside him. Callie's eyes widened in surprise. This hadn't been part of any conversation they'd had. He had promised to be a father to them, yes, but saying it in front of the entire company? Still, she said nothing as Gavin continued. So if anyone mistreats these children, he added, they'll answer to me. These kids deserve kindness, and I'm here to make sure they get it. With the children by his side, Gavin walked back toward the office. Callie, he said, without looking back, come with us. She blinked, then followed. Once they were alone near the car, she couldn't keep it in anymore. Why did you say that? She asked. Gavin turned to her, eyes serious now. He looked at the kids, who were waiting patiently, and smiled at them. You 3 go wait inside the car. Your mum and I need to talk for a minute. The triplets nodded and climbed into the back seat without protest. Gavin turned back to Callie. Look, I know you felt it too. I've been keeping my distance, trying not to let things get complicated, but I can't pretend anymore. I don't just want to be their dad. Callie's breath caught. What are you saying? He stepped closer and gently took her hands. I want more, Callie. I want to be with you. She opened her mouth to speak, but he cut in softly. I know this might come as a shock. It surprised me too. One day I just woke up and I realized how I felt. I know it's wrong. I know you were with my brother, but I can't help it. Callie looked away, struggling to breathe. I'm not asking you to answer now, he added. If you're not ready, that's okay. I'll wait, but I needed you to know. She looked up at him, eyes glassy. I've been trying to deny it too, but I think I feel something for you, Gavin. His eyes widened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. I know it's wrong. I've tried to ignore it, to bury it, but my heart keeps choosing you, she whispered. Gavin's face softened. He raised a hand and gently wiped away the tear slipping down her cheek. You don't have to rush. Even if you're not ready, I'll wait, as long as it takes. Callie reached up and held his hand against her cheek. It's not that easy, she murmured. We may have feelings for each other, but it doesn't make it right. You're his brother. But this is what he wanted, Gavin said. It was his wish, for us to be happy, for me to be there for all of you. Don't you want that too? Callie broke down, tears falling faster. Of course I do. Then let's fight for it, Gavin said, voice steady. He gave us his blessing. Isn't that enough? Callie glanced at the car, at her kids watching from inside. But your parents, they'll be shocked. I'll take care of it, Gavin promised. You won't have to worry. I'll fight for you, for them, for all of us. Gavin kept his promise. A few days later, he brought Callie and the triplets to his parents' house to talk. They stood together, looking serious, as Dolce greeted them in the living room. What's this about? She asked, noticing their tense expressions. Gavin and Callie exchanged a glance. Mum, Dad, there's something we want to tell you, Gavin began. Before he could say more, little Gabriel suddenly stepped forward. Grandma, is it okay if Mom and Dad get married, so he can officially be our real dad? Everyone froze. Gavin and Callie stared at each other in shock. They hadn't expected the boy to say anything, especially not that. Sweetheart, Callie said gently, kneeling beside him. Let the adults talk, okay? Dolce was already smiling, though. It's okay, honey, she told Gabriel. Then she turned to Gavin and Callie. So, is that what you were going to say? Gavin nodded slowly. Yes, Mom, I love her. We tried not to, but we do. And we've decided we want to be a real family. Dolce looked at them both, then back at the kids. Finally, her smile widened. Is that really what I'm hearing? She said. You love each other? You want to get married? Gavin blinked. You're okay with it? Dolce smacked his arm lightly. Who do you think I am to stop people from loving each other? Besides, this is what Gideon wanted, wasn't it? He wanted his family to become part of ours. I want that too. Callie burst into tears. Gavin squeezed her hand, and the kids cheered. Before the wedding, the entire family visited Gideon's grave. Callie knelt down and traced her fingers across his name on the stone. I know I promised I'd love only you for the rest of my life, she whispered. I didn't know I'd fall for someone else, let alone your brother. But I want you to know, the love I gave you was real. It will always be with me. Gavin stood beside her and gently rubbed her back. Then he stepped forward and faced the grave. I didn't think you were serious when you wrote it in your letter. I thought it was just something you said, asking me to make your family part of ours. I didn't think I'd actually want to. But now I understand. You knew me better than I knew myself. And now, I love them too. He paused, his voice firm with emotion. I'll protect them, just like you would have. I promise you. From that day forward, something changed in both of them. Their hearts felt lighter. The guilt, the uncertainty, it was still there, but now there was also peace. The wedding came quickly. Callie Enright, do you take Gavin Sumner as your lawfully wedded husband? The officiant asked. Callie looked at Gavin, then at the children beside them. With tears in her eyes and a full heart, she smiled. Yes, I do. The kiss that followed sealed it all, filled with love, hope, and the start of something new. Congratulations, sweetheart, Dolce said afterward. I know Gideon is smiling down on you. I'm proud of you both. Callie and Gavin exchanged grateful glances, knowing she was right. A few months passed, Callie gave birth to twins. The triplets celebrated excitedly. "Welcome to the world, baby twins," Gabriel cheered, the entire Sumner mansion filled with joy. Callie, cradling one of the newborns, felt arms gently wrap around her waist from behind. "Love," Gavin murmured against her ear, "things would be even more amazing if we had another set." She rolled her eyes and smirked. "Then maybe you should be the one to carry them next time." He laughed. "Fair enough. But still, thank you for coming into my life. I'll never stop being grateful for you, and for them." Just then, little Gabriel came running up. "Dad, can you help me with this?" "Be right there, buddy," Gavin said, ruffling the boy's hair before heading off. Callie watched them from afar, her heart full. Gavin wasn't the triplets' biological father, but he had become their true dad in every way that mattered. And now, watching their children play together in the garden, she realized something she never expected. Happiness had found them, and it was real, forever. The end. Thank you all for watching. This is Mr. Hope. Blessings to you all.